Okay, so the dot product is a operation between two vectors that it has meaning in the sense of finding work, of computing work. Like if you're pulling a wagon and you want to know, you're pulling a wagon along a road and you want to know, and you're holding it by the handle. Well, what part of the force that you're applying on the handle is doing the work and moving the wagon, horizontally along the road. So the dot product relates to that kind of application. It relates to that kind of application. But I want to focus just in the few moments we have on the definition of a dot product. Okay, so the dot product, and your homework will be similar. This is how the dot product is defined. If you have a vector A and a vector B, and you do the dot product between A and B, it is defined as the magnitude or the length of the vector A times the length of the vector B times the cosine of theta. Okay, that's one way to compute the dot product between two vectors. Now, the definition, it's a good definition. Okay, I mean, it makes sense in terms of applications, but the issue is sometimes is that if you have two vectors, if you want to find the dot product between two vectors, you have to know the angle between those two vectors. Think about the two vectors lying in a plane. What's the angle between the two vectors in that plane? So there's another way, actually, another way to compute the dot product. Okay, another way to compute the dot product is, hold on here, is using the component form. Okay, so if let's say the vectors, normally we know the components of the vectors. So if we could compute the dot product between two vectors when given the components, that's wonderful. And so they show, using the law of cosines, that if you want to compute the dot product of two vectors A and B, just multiply the components, the x components, the y components, and the z components, and add them. Okay, and that's how you can get the dot product of two vectors. Okay, that's how you can get the dot product of two vectors. And they have some nice examples in the book where they compute dot products based on components. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. I don't think you're going to have a problem. And of course, sometimes you want to find the angle between two vectors. Okay, hold on, let me get that off. Hold on. You want to find the angle between two vectors, and you can use the dot product to help you. So like example 5, they want you to find the angle between these two vectors, A and B. Well, if you find the length of A and the length of B, which you can find, you know how to find the lengths of vectors, and then you compute the dot product of the two vectors using the component formula. The dot product in this case is equal to 2 between A and B. Then, from the definition of the dot product, you can find the cosine of theta. And then you can find theta by taking the inverse cosine. Okay, so these concepts are strictly what you're going to be focusing on in your homework assignment for 9.3, which will not be long at all. Okay, we'll talk more about the dot product next on Monday, and I think that's good. Are there any questions? Okay, let me stop the recording.